Hi, I'm Joe Jimenez's web editor of IT World Canada. Welcome to the third episode in our IT Executive Development series, which focuses on the topic of project management. To better understand the key principles of effective project management, we'll be talking to Professor Peter Carr, Director of the Masters in Management Science program at the University of Waterloo. We'll draw on Professor Carr's insights and his many years of experience in this area. Professor Carr, prior to any major IT rollout, what steps should a company take to ensure the deployment is a success and its goals are achieved?
I think one of the most important things that a company needs to do when it's planning its project and getting the things in place that are going to mean that that project is going to be successful are first of all around the stakeholders, ensuring that the right stakeholders have been identified, particularly in an IT project, the user community, and that there's a mechanism for them to be involved in the project design and monitoring the progress of the project as it proceeds.
Some experts say that in big IT projects, multi-stage deployment is a good idea, because lessons learned in one phase about what works and what doesn't can be applied to subsequent phases, and you also avoid repeating the same mistakes. Would you agree with this perspective?
I would completely agree that as projects become larger and larger, and I think this is a major issue now for organisations, that the scale of the projects that they're dealing with is becoming so huge. To be able to break those projects down into to their constituent parts, learn from the different phases as the project proceeds, is absolutely the correct thing to do.
Quite often, IT managers complain that despite several meetings with vendors to discuss the scope of a project, the final result didn't conform to what was promised and expected. How may communications between enterprise IT teams and vendors be improved so that there's a greater congruence between expectations and what the vendor actually delivers?
Yeah, I think this problem with projects not being delivered in the way that the receiver of the project expects is of course a very serious one, and what there's a need to do is at the beginning of the project to be absolutely clear about what the expectations are, to define those very, very carefully. But then as the project proceeds, to have very close communication between the vendors and the buyers of the project, so that changes can be made at an earlier stage rather than simply receiving the results of the results from the vendor and those not being what we expect them to be. Absolutely important. And I think in doing that today, the technologies that are increasingly becoming available that enable collaboration between organisations, their suppliers and their customers are going to be critical to improving that.
IT managers are understandably often reluctant to talk about failed projects. But is there a way IT teams can turn failure into something positive and actually benefit from it?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things for us to do is to learn from the failures that we make in our projects. And of course the statistics tell us that many IT projects fail, and as much as we should learn from those projects and look at those projects that are successful, I think looking at the projects that fail probably teaches us much more about the things that we have to look out for and the things that are going to cause us problems as we complete our projects. I think the other point though in the failure of projects is that it's much less about the techniques that we're using to monitor the progress of projects and control costs and that type of thing, but it's more about the people side of projects, about being able to coordinate a very diverse group of people, often without the authority that we need to be able to do that, where people are doing different jobs at the same time, where we have other people in the organisation that have views on the project that's being completed. Very much the people side of projects is an area that's absolutely critical to their success, but on which there is often not enough focus.
Some experts say failure to carefully benchmark and measure a project's progress at various phases is one of the commonest reasons why IT projects often go off track. What are your thoughts?
I think measurement of projects is often a difficult thing to do, to identify what the parameters are that we should be measuring in order to track the progress of the project itself. But I don't think that should put us off doing it. Measuring the progress that we're making, being able to understand when a problem is likely to arise is absolutely important. But I think it goes beyond simply measuring statistics or metrics around the project. It's also about being able to take a broader view and monitor very carefully how things like relationships between people in the project team are proceeding, what the buy-in is of the stakeholders that we have. In addition to simply measuring how the costs are proceeding or how timelines are proceeding, it's also important to have your finger on the pulse as far as the relationships with people inside the project are concerned.
Professor, I understand that the University of Waterloo is involved in an initiative called Net Hope. From the looks of it, the goal seems to be to study IT project management practices with a view to improving them. Can you tell us more about the project?
Net Hope brings together a number of different aid organisations, including Plan International, formerly Foster Plan, Save the Children, Oxfam and others, 17 different organisations, with some of the technology organisations, including Microsoft and Cisco and others, to work on technology-oriented projects to support third world development. And what I'm particularly excited about is that we've set up a relationship where there will be an elective in our Masters in Management Science programme where students will work together online on these types of projects and support third world development.
In big IT projects, you often hear about how important it is to get complete executive buy-in before actually launching. What's your take on this?
I think that it's very rare for a project to be successful that doesn't have the level of executive commitment and buy-in that is needed for that success to be able to happen. And this is something that I think that senior managers need to probably understand better, the extent to which their opinion and their authority matters in the success of a project. When I talk to project managers, often one of the biggest frustrations that I see is that the support just isn't there from senior management to make the project successful. So no matter what they do, that project is dead from the start, and it's obviously a very frustrating thing for a project manager. But it's also very wasteful for the organisation that has committed resources to it but isn't willing to put the muscle behind it to make it actually happen.
Professor Carr, it was a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for sharing your ideas and insights on IT project management with us.